This is WZRD Chicago 88.3 FM. We have with us today in the studio two special guests from the Small Business Advocacy Council. It is Scott Baskin and also Larry Minutillo. Welcome, gentlemen. How are you today?
Good, thank you.
Great, thank you very much.
So, first of all, please describe for us the Small Business Advocacy Council and both of your roles in it.
The Small Business Advocacy Council, we were founded about 9 years ago, and actually the founder is not me. I'm just the CEO of the organization, but Elliot Richardson is the founder of the organization, and it was started to help support small business. Elliot was running for Congress in the 10th District 10 years ago, and one of the things he discovered during his campaigning was that there are a lot of small businesses in the state, and particularly Metro Chicago, and many of those small business owners didn't feel that they had a role in participating in making their voices heard.
What kind of problems did they have back then that needed to be addressed?
Well, I think problems that are the same today. How to make sure that the voice of a small business gets heard in City Hall, in Springfield, in Washington, D.C. Big businesses are heard. Big businesses have lobbying organizations. They spend lots of money. They make sure their voices are heard. Small business owners don't have much money, and small business owners spend most of their time working. They're working 7 days a week. They don't have time to go down to Springfield or to go to Washington or even to go down to City Hall to express their views and let people know the issues that are important to them.
Yeah, we have seen in the Rogers Park Chamber of Commerce, same exact thing that you're talking about. So, how are you able to communicate with these small business owners to discover what concerns them, and then how you could help them? Are you able to communicate with them in a way that they don't have to come to meetings?
Well, one of the big ways that you mentioned, the Rogers Park Chamber, we work with a lot of the chambers in the city and the suburbs, and we talk to them often. We try to meet with them once a month, and it is through them we learn a lot about the problems that they're facing and some of the solutions that we can propose and advocate for to help make things a bit better for small businesses in Chicago and the suburbs and the state.
Okay, let's cut to the chase. In these years of advocacy by the Small Business Advocacy Council, what solutions have you brought about?
Well, I think one of the biggest things we did was a couple of years ago we were able to change the state law to reduce the fees that LLCs pay in the state. And most businesses are organized that way. And we reduced the fees by about $175 a year per business.
And what is the percentage of that in comparison with what it was before?
The fee, we reduced the fee from $250 to $75 a year.
Well, that is more than 50%.
And because of that, one of the things we have done, we've been able to increase the number of businesses that have filed in the state by 66% last year. So this has been a win-win.
Do you find that most of the businesses are concentrated in the Chicago metropolitan area, or are there more businesses now in downstate?
Oh, there are small businesses throughout the state. There's certainly more in the Chicago area because there are more people in the Chicago area. But there are lots of small businesses in every town in the state, up from the top to the bottom of the state. The state is filled with small businesses, and small businesses actually create the majority of jobs in the state.
Isn't it 75% of jobs?
It is about that, and particularly downstate. The small business owner is the person who is hiring and creating most of the jobs.
What would you say is the largest sector for small business?
Well, I think particularly small businesses tend to be active in the service and retail sections, in the restaurants and retail and the various services that are needed throughout the state, and particularly are needed in small towns and in places like Rogers Park and Andersonville and Lakeview and the city. It's these small business owners that really make the character of the Rogers Park and Andersonville, and they're so important to drive the commerce and make the city the great place it is and the place people want to live. People want to live in a place where they can walk to their favorite restaurant, or walk to their dry cleaners, or walk to their doctor, those are the small business people.
What is the difference between the SBAC, the Small Business Advocacy Council, and other advocacy organizations for small business?
Well, I think mostly, I don't know that we're different, except we are very focused on what can we do to help a small business? What can we do to raise the voice of a small business? What can we do to really encourage small business owners to get involved in the process? I think that's part of our mission too, is to go out and try to get small business owners involved, to speak up, to let their congressman or let their state rep know that that they are there and that they have a vote and that they have employees and that they are an important part of what drives the city and state.
So how receptive are the legislators to your lobbying?
I think very. We have yet to find a state rep or a state senator or somebody in the city who is opposed to small business. Everyone is in favor of small businesses. The question is, and the issue is, trying to get them to understand the problems that small businesses face. The problems that they face each day with trying to get a business license, with trying to get streets clean, with dealing with all the regs that are involved with employees, and trying to sort of make it easier for a small business person to run their business and not worry about all these other things, these other obstacles that they face each day.
What is considered a small business? How many employees would a small business have before it would become not a small business?
Well, that's a good question. I think that sort of a small business is sort of as you see it. Our focus is principally on businesses with probably 100 or fewer employees. Mm-hmm. But I think and I think that's probably a good way to look at it.
Do you see that the employees are aware of the Small Business Advocacy Council? Are they able to input some of their views? Because if not, then more outreach, such as this radio show, might be able to access their side of their take on some of the problems that small business and small business employees are facing.
No, I think the employees are very aware of the problems that the small businesses face, and are very vocal about it. The employees want their small business owner to succeed. They want to have a job. Not only do they want to have a job, most employees of small businesses I have met love their job, and they love their business, and they love what they're doing, and they love their customers, and they want to succeed, and they want to do well in their jobs, and they want their business owner to succeed. They want their business to succeed.
So you do have dialogue with the employees?
Yes, absolutely. A small business tends to be much more like a family than a big business, and that's one of the nice things about a small business.
If some small business employees were to be listening in this show, they would be able to contact you, right? At least the Small Business Advocacy Council, and at least put their 2 cents in about what concerns them the most now.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, well, later at the end of the show, you could describe to our listeners how to contact the Small Business Advocacy Council. So, moving on, how is the Small Business Advocacy Council funded?
We are funded through dues. We have 500 or so dues paying members, and we have another roughly 1,000 or so advocacy members who join our organization to support our cause. We also receive money from sponsors, and we hold events. We have a golf event coming July 26th. For those of you who like to play golf and want to support us, please come out.
Sounds good. Who are your sponsors?
We have a number of small business sponsors that are law firms and small businesses in the city and the suburbs who support our organization. We have some larger sponsors who support small businesses. Fifth Third Bank is a sponsor. Inland Bank is a sponsor. These are larger businesses who know that small businesses need to succeed for them to succeed.
So the larger corporations really do not see small businesses as competitors per se. It's they're more a part of the community, and then if the community thrives, then so thrives larger corporations.
Yes, but most of the times, small businesses are key customers for large businesses, and it's very important that we have a vibrant, successful small businesses, because so many of these are the important customers to a Fifth Third Bank or an Inland Bank, and or other large corporations, a State Farm or an Allstate. Their main customers, lots of them, are small businesses.
So do you have any sponsors that are corporations?
Yes, just the ones we named, and we're out trying to find more sponsors. We could use some more financial support so we can spread the word and really work on some changes that will make a big difference for not only for the small businesses, but also for the big businesses, because they will have more customers and more successful customers.
So the changes that you mentioned would be the priorities then. What are the priorities of Small Business Advocacy Council's lobbying?
Well, one of the things we're working on right now is actually in Washington, D.C. One of the problems right now that all big businesses, but particularly small businesses, have is finding employees. And there's a bill in Congress right now that we are working hard to pass. It's called the Small Business. Excuse me, I'm trying to find the name of the bill. But the bill involves student debt, and this is a huge problem for students at this college, and for most students. And right now it's HR 1043. It's the Employer Participation in Repayment Act. And what the bill would do, it would allow a business, an employer, to pay up to $5,250 a year towards a student's debt. And this would be a deductible expense to the employer, and it would not be considered income to the employee. So this would be a benefit that a small business could give to its employees to help the employee pay off their student debt.
That would be $5,200 per year?
Yes.
Up to.
Up to, yes.
Up to, yes.
Is that legislation modeled after other legislation that has been passed in other states?
No, this would be in D.C., and this would change the
national.
tax law. Yes.
I see.
This would change the tax law. This would allow every business to contribute up to the $5,250 a year, and they would be able to deduct this from their taxes, and this would not be considered income to the student. So this is a win-win for both sides.
Yeah, and one other benefit that you would hope to get from that is it's gonna help free up some money for the student, or the employee, I should say, to start contributing to 401k. So a lot of people aren't planning for retirement because they're trying to pay down this enormous amount of student debt that they have.
And this is important for small business owners in particular, because very large businesses can afford to make this contribution to an employee and not have to worry about the tax ramifications or whether or not they can deduct it, because they can afford it. A small business owner can't afford this without some help, and this is a way to give them some help to help their employee and help attract employees. And student debt is such a huge issue, as you all know.
Yes, well, yesterday, Mr. Smith, in his commencement address, paid off $40 million worth of debt for all the graduates.
Yes.
If you went to that school, it's not a problem anymore.
Who were your collaborators in putting together this legislation? It sounds like a very good piece of legislation, and I'm very interested in learning how it came about. Who collaborated? How long did it take to fashion how it's going to work and how best it would work?
Well, it was introduced in the last Congress and received a lot of bipartisan support. It did not pass in the last Congress, but it was reintroduced in this Congress, and we have 130 co-sponsors right now in the House. We have 26 co-sponsors in the Senate. Our goal is to see if we can, through our efforts and through joining efforts with other small business groups around the country, see if we can get up to 290 co-sponsors for this bill, which would sort of drive the bill through, and I think it would get it passed. And we're up to over 130 now. I'm happy to say that Congressman Mike Quigley is a co-sponsor, and he's the local congressman. And we're working on trying to get the rest of the Illinois delegation to sponsor the bill, to co-sponsor the bill. So if there are any students out there who are interested in this bill, please call your congressman and say, please support this bill, H.R. 1043.
Was the Small Business Advocacy Council the author of the legislation?
We were not the author. We came in the very beginning once we heard about this bill. And so we've been a big supporter for the last year or two. And it is one of our big efforts this year is to see what we can do to see if we can get this passed, because we think it would make a huge difference for small businesses and for employees of small businesses.
Just out of curiosity, are you two gentlemen, have you paid off all your student debt?
Yes, mine's all paid off.
Mine was a long time ago.
Good for you.
I have lots of gray hair.
I'd have to give special credit to my parents for that, though.
So what again are the priorities of the Small Business Advocacy Council? I know that you mentioned this legislation. So this was your number one priority?
This is one of our big priorities. On the city level, one of our big issues is dealing with signs and the laws and the ordinances that deal with signs. Chicago is maybe the only city in the country that requires the city council to vote and approve every sign that goes up on a small business in the city. So if you're trying to open a small business and you want to get a sign up, which is the most important advertising a small business can do, as a great sign, you have to have a special bill essentially that is passed by the full city council. And this takes takes time, and it takes time and effort, not only on the part of the person, the small business who wants to put the sign up. They have to go to their alderman, they have to go downtown, they have to file, they have to fill out the forms, it has to get it approved, it then has to go to the city council, it has to get approved by the the council, the public transportation committee in the council, then it has to go for a full vote in the city council. This takes a long time, and sometimes a business can open and still not have a sign permit.
I think I've seen that. Based on your insight, who benefits from this onerous process of signage?
I don't think anybody does, really. It has been the way the city has operated for a while. We introduced a bill 2 years ago to change the process. We had 34 co-sponsors out of 50 in the council, and we were able to get some significant changes made, but we still haven't hit the home run yet. And we're hoping that with our new mayor and with our new city council, this may be something that we can do over the next year or two, so that this becomes strictly administrative process, which it should be, and not a process that requires the vote of a full city council. This should just be a straight administrative process, where you know what the rules are, and you design your sign that way, and you get a permit.
Yeah, that was my question. So all 50 aldermen have to approve it in order for the process to change, in order to get rid of
It has
this?
to pass the full council, so every sign needs 26 votes in the council to pass.
But in order to change the process, you have said that you have 30 co-sponsors. So is that enough to pass the bill to change what it is now, change this signage process?
Well, it would be, but it's a more complicated process, as we have learned over the years. I'm trying to get it through the various, we have to get it through the various parts of the council.
Committees?
Yes.
Which committees are
committee.
in the way?
Well, the ones that are involved in this are the licensing committee, they're all involved in certain ways. The rules committee, the public transportation committee, and it's and we have to get the mayor on board and the city on board. But I think it will happen. I think it will happen as we're going forward, because people are beginning to understand that there are these obstacles that are in the way of small businesses that really don't make a whole lot of sense. Perhaps they made sense 20 or 30 or 40 years ago when these rules were written and when these practices came about, but in today's world, they just don't make sense.
How much revenue does the city earn from this licensing?
I don't know.
But that
But
even so,
it's it is, the more signs we can get licensed, the more money the city will earn, which is important. The city, certainly, we have a budget problem, which we all know. If we can make the process easier, I think there'll be more people applying for a sign permit, and I think that will, that's also a win-win for both the small business owner and hopefully for the city.
have you all considered also that if the signage process were not so onerous, then there would be more productivity, because business owners don't have to concern themselves with this aspect of their business, and they could actually concentrate more on serving their customers and getting more business and getting more productivity, which would lead to more revenue for the city.
No, absolutely. I mean, the fewer obstacles we can put in front of a small business, the better. And particularly for the sign companies that erect the signs, they spend so much of their time down in City Hall trying to process the papers that are needed to get the sign approved. If we can reduce that and reduce the amount of time that they need to spend doing that, that gives them more time to putting up signs, which is what they want to do.
What about your third priority?
So,
Yes.
okay, signs are certainly, and the whole concept of signs are very important to us. Another issue that we've been focused on for the last few years is allowing small businesses to deal with various citations and violations they receive. Right now, if a small business owner receives a violation for having a package in his store that's not marked right, the price is wrong or the expiration date is wrong, they have to go downtown, they have to hire a lawyer, and they have to go through an administrative hearing to get this resolved. Even if they want to plead guilty and pay the fine, right now it's hard to do. So one of our big efforts is to see what we can do to try to change that process and make it easier for a small business owner who has this citation simply to say, whoops, I made a mistake, let me pay the fine and move on, and not have to hire a lawyer and go downtown and go through a hearing. The city in the last 6 months has started an experimental program where they have picked 10 violations right now that would allow a small business owner to simply plead guilty and pay the fine. And we applaud the city for that. We think that's great, and we've been working with the city for the past year plus to try to make this happen. We would like to see this expanded to include a lot more of these violations, so that the small business owner doesn't have to go through the expense of the lawyer, go through the time of going downtown to go through the hearing, and can simply pay the fine and move on and continue to spend their time trying to make their business better.
What city council committees are most vested in this aspect?
Oh, I don't know that the city council committees are invested in this. This is more the way the city has set this up over the years. There was also a court ruling a few years ago that made it necessary for certain corporations to have an attorney and go appear in person. I think we need to deal with that, but it's mostly how we can organize the city better and make it easier for small businesses to deal with these kinds of violations without going through this long process. The city agrees that we should all do this, and so we're all working towards making this happen. And these little things like this will make a big difference.
What are the roadblocks? If everybody's willing to work together, what is keeping the legislation from happening?
Well, it's trying to make things happen. There's a lot of there's certainly a lot of changes that would need to be made downtown in terms of the various departments and how they operate. There's a lot of there's probably some technical work, IT work that needs to be done to make this happen, and it's just getting focused and getting people committed to say, hey, we're going to get this done. And it's also, there's some issues probably with working with the council, and mostly working with the various department heads in the city who are focused on trying to make this happen. I think the big question is what we can do, and this is one of our big focuses, is what we can do to, again, raise these issues with the people who are in charge, with the department heads downtown, with the city council, with the people in Springfield. And one of the roles we see us playing, the SBAC playing, is letting people know these are issues that impact small businesses. Because most people, unless you're a small business owner and unless you have to go downtown to deal with this, you don't know this is an obstacle, that this is a real problem that you have to deal with as a small business person each day. And so our mission of trying to be the voice and trying to explain to those who can make a difference is important to us.
It looks like you are prioritizing these issues, but the members of the city council and the departments are not. they probably have other priorities. And
Well, they are, but I think one of the issues is that they don't know these problems exist. And that's our role. That's one of the roles we view as so important, is to make sure people know these problems exist.
how hard is it for you for the Small Business Advocacy Council to gain access to the aldermen to discuss these issues with them and the departments?
So almost every alderman we have come across in the past years has been very willing to sit down with us and talk about us and help support our, the aldermen want the city to be better. They want small businesses to succeed. So it's, I think, getting the word out. I'm trying to deal with years and years of history and trying to say, how can we make these changes and to make life easier for small businesses. And I think the more the aldermen hear from us, particularly the more the aldermen hear from their constituents, particularly their small business owners, they are very open to change.
Have you been able to assess Mayor-elect Lightfoot's position on small business and her position on these issues?
Well, we were fortunate enough to have, during the election, we held two forums for the mayor candidates, and Mayor Lightfoot appeared at both of our forums, and we were very impressed and happy to hear her views on small business. I think she gets it. I think she gets the problems that small businesses face, and she understands the importance that small business plays in the city. And so we are very encouraged and very hopeful that she's going to be on our side on lots of these issues and is going to work hard to see what she can do and see what she can do to get the departments to do to make life easier for small businesses and attack some of these problems.
We've got a seat on her transition team as well. So Elliot Richardson will be a big part of that. I believe Scott will be as well. But we had something similar with Mayor Emanuel as well. So they were very open and welcoming to the SBAC to sit.
Was that when Mayor Emanuel began his terms as mayor, or when
It was into his term. Yeah, it hasn't been there since the beginning, but very open to meeting with the SBAC. We had a monthly meeting where you guys would go down there and talk about the small business community?
Yeah, so and we did. We had a very, very good relationship with Mayor Emanuel and with all the people at City Hall. And again, everyone supports small business. Everyone wants small businesses to succeed. But having everyone understand the problems that small businesses face, that's our challenge. And that's that's our role, is to try to make sure that people do understand these problems and that with a solution that works for all parties.
So while you had the seat at the table, could you describe some of the progress that you were able to affect by having a seat at the table with Mayor Emanuel?
Well, we have made progress on the signs. We still have this problem of having the full city council approve every sign. But we have made, and through his help and through the help of the people in his administration, we were able to reduce the amount of time it takes to get a sign approved from up to 9 months to down to maybe 3 or 4 months on now, and maybe even a month if everything goes well. So that was a win. We've been able to change some of the home office and home work rules in the city to make it easier for people to really start a small business in their home. We have this program, as I described, that allows for a certain number of violations a small business owner to simply plead guilty and pay the fine without having to hire a lawyer and go through a full hearing process.
How much money does a small business?
Those have been big wins.
How
and
much
we want
money?
to continue those.
Absolutely. How much money would a small business owner save by just pleading guilty versus having to hire an attorney and having to appear at a hearing?
Well, you have to take a half day or full day to go downtown for the hearing, so that's a full day or half day out of your schedule. You have to pay an attorney, which is anywhere from 500 to 1,500 or more to appear with you, and it's the whole disruption that comes with having to prepare and go downtown. And so this would be a big deal. It's a
Yes.
it's a big win for small businesses, particularly for these small infractions, where let's just pay the fine and move on and correct what we were doing. And lots of these fines were infractions were for things that the small business owner didn't really understand were wrong. Now they do. They just want to pay the fine and move forward and do what they're supposed to do.
Were you able to improve the education process for the small business owners so that the city informs them of these possible infractions, so that these infractions won't happen in the first place?
The city tries real hard to make sure that all small business owners understand what.
The BACP?
Yes. And they try very, very hard to make sure that business owners understand what all the ordinances and the regulations and the rules are. But it's hard, and I don't think anyone can ever do enough. And the more we can do, and particularly the more we can do with using technology today to make it easier and make this information more accessible to small businesses, the better. And we do have, as we all know, the city has a huge budget problem. But it's certainly one of our wishes to see find some small pot of money out there so the city can invest in improved technology and make it easier for small businesses to understand all the rules and or ordinances that are out there that apply to them.
There isn't any ombudsman that could help small businesses on behalf of the city, is there yet?
There not that I'm aware of it at the moment. It would be certainly we would support an effort to really make small business a focus of the next four years, and having heard the mayor-elect twice, now we are very encouraged by all the good things she has said about small businesses, and really her understanding of the importance of small businesses and the role it plays and the role small businesses play in the city. So we are very hopeful of what the next 4 years will bring.
How often does the transition committee meet?
I believe the committee has met 2 or 3 times.
Do you have a newsletter that could convey to your members and small business employees about what transpired at your meetings, at the transition committee meetings?
I believe the transition. I believe the mayor in the next few days will be talking about all the views that she heard during her transition during these meetings.
Okay.
And hopefully, I believe that all the views that were expressed by all the various groups that she heard from will be part of her plan as she goes forward.
So the transition committee is no longer in existence. It's been disbanded, or is it still continuing to help the mayor in her work in the next few months?
Well, now that she has become mayor as of 10 this morning, I'm assuming that the transition groups are no longer needed, but they will probably be reformatted in some other way so that she can reach out to these various groups over the next 4 years and get more input.
It does help for all the stakeholders to sit together at the table to discuss problems that are common among all of you.
Yes.
And what kind of problems are common among all of you?
I think the various things we have discussed. There are just so many big and small things that go into trying to be successful as a small business owner in the city, and it's all the rules and regs that apply to small businesses, but it's also the very big things. How do we make sure that we have great schools? How do we make sure we have a great police department, a great fire department? All of these things that we all want as small business owners that make it better to open a business in the city of Chicago.
Well, all those issues are based on funding, adequate funding. I know that the Small Business Advocacy Council goes once a year to Springfield as well. So what kind of legislation are you trying to work on in Springfield?
Well, we have a couple bills in Springfield we've been supporting. One is called the Small Business Job Creation Act, and it's a bill that would allow an employer with 50 or fewer employees apply for a $2,500 state tax credit for every new employee that is hired. And part of our mission with this, our goal with this, is to try to again level the playing field for small businesses versus big businesses. We've all read in the papers about the number of edge tax credits and tax programs that the state and the city have offered to very large businesses who move to the city or the state. But there is not a program that would help a small business owner who also adds to their employee roll. And small business owners, as we have said, add more than half of the employees in the state. So this is an important part of the economy of the state. And in order to make it fair and make sure that the small business owner gets their fair share, this is a bill that we have been supporting. It was law, and it expired. The previous law expired in 2016, and we are trying to get this law back on the books to allow small businesses to take advantage of this.
This is WZRD Chicago 88.3 FM, The Wizard. And we are with Scott Baskin, the CEO of Small Business Advocacy Council, and also Larry Minutillo, a member of the Small Business Advocacy Council. What is the position of larger corporations with regard to these tax credits for small business?
Well, we haven't heard from a large business about this.
Okay, so
so
they don't mind.
So our focus is on small businesses and trying to see what we can do to help them. Another issue that we're trying to work on is what is called fair maps. We're trying to see what we can do to change the way the state draws the elective districts in the state.
Does that affect how does that affect small business?
Well, this is the problem. If you look at where your state house and senate seats are drawn, the maps, and you look at the way the districts for Congress are drawn in the state, it's like a jigsaw puzzle. And too often, districts are drawn with the intent of protecting the current person in office. And as a result, we have so many districts within the state where the race for the district, there's only one person running, because it's sort of predetermined who's going to win. And if you don't believe your vote matters, if you don't believe that there's someone there who really cares what you're going to say and and is concerned about trying to get your vote, the system breaks down, and it's not working. And as a small business owner, you just get discouraged, and you think, well, what difference does it make what I say or how I vote, because I know who's going to win this seat. because that's the way it's drawn. And that's not the way our system should work. So if we could work, as there's a big effort to see what we can do to reform the way these electoral maps are drawn in the state, so that they make more sense, so that we have more districts where there actually is a competitive race, and so the people who are running have to pay attention to those voters in the district, and it makes a huge difference.
Do you have any sponsors on this legislation, and would they be non-incumbents, or do you even have incumbents helping you?
Yes, no, the bill is in the Senate. We have 36 votes. We have 35 co-sponsors in the Senate. We have a number of co-sponsors in the House, but we need to get leadership in both the House and the Senate to see if we can bring these bills up for a vote.
I see. So even if you had enough sponsors to pass the bill, if leadership were not to bring it to a vote, you wouldn't get anywhere.
That's correct. We have to have it brought to a vote.
Okay, and then if there were more sponsors, would that be enough to convince the leadership, or?
I believe so. I think that would help. If the leadership sees that two-thirds of the House and two-thirds of the Senate support these bills, I think that's a strong push to see if we can get these brought to a vote.
How far away are you from affecting that, and how far have you come?
Well, we're very close in the Senate. We're getting there in the House. We need some more co-sponsors, and we will continue to work on it. And we'll see. Okay, we think it'll make a big difference if we can create maps that make sense and that create more competitive races.
Okay, what is the legislation called again, so that small business employees and small business owners can call their their Illinois congressman to vote to support this bill?
In the Senate, it's SJRCA 0004, and in the House, it's HJRCA 0015. And these are both bills that people can call and ask their state reps and state senators to support.
And besides the numbers, if they don't remember the numbers and haven't jotted them down, what would they call? What would they be called again? Just to how to control the remapping?
Yeah, these would be constitutional amendments to change the way we draw the state electoral maps.
Okay, thank you. With what other lobbying organizations does the SBAC collaborate?
We work with everyone who supports small businesses, and there are various business groups around the city and the state, and we are very issue focused. So when we all come together to support a particular issue, we all sit around the table and we all support it. So every issue has a different group of organizations that tend to support it. But we are open to working with everybody.
But could you name some organizations that
Well, I
do
think
lobby with you?
our big supporters, and we work a lot with, as I mentioned before, are the local chambers,
Okay.
both in the city and in the suburbs. We work with most of the local chambers.
And some of these chambers do accompany you on your trips to Springfield. And did you say Washington D.C. as well, right? You have annual trips to.
Yes, we go to both.
Okay, and besides that legislation that you described earlier in Washington D.C., what is the second and third most important national legislation that the SBAC is lobbying for?
Right now, our focus is on this debt bill, the student debt bill. That's the one we really would like to get passed.
Right.
We think we have a good chance of doing it. Again, if we can reach out to and come up with 290 co-sponsors in the House, and we can come up with 60 co-sponsors in the Senate, I think we can get this done.
And what are your current sponsors now?
We have 26 in the Senate, so we're almost halfway there. We have over 130 in the House, so we're getting there. And we have found that there are a lot of members of the House who just don't know about this bill. So we have a big outreach program going now where we're trying to get the word out and reach out to as many people in different states to spread the word and let their congressperson know that this bill is there and ask them to please support it.
Approximately how long did it take you to get this far?
Well, we've been working on this for a year and a half now, 2 years about.
That's nice. Do you have any advice for students about pursuing small business? Because we are Northeastern Illinois University and we have a thriving College of Business and Management.
You do. This is a great school. This is absolutely a great school. I ran a small business for 35 years, and
What was the sector?
it was a retail clothing business. I owned and ran a business called Mark Shale in Chicago, and often people would come up to me and say, how do I get started in this business, or how do I start a business? And I always say, look, follow your passion. What are the things that get you excited? What are the areas of business in which you have an interest? And then go find a job in that sector and learn and come up with ideas, and don't be afraid to come up with new ideas based on the things you have learned.
So you need to have that job to see what the problems are, what solutions need to be found.
It helps if you're really interested in the world of retail. Get a job with a retail company, and take a look and learn how it works and learn the problems, and think about the solutions you have, and think about the customers that you would like to reach, and think about the products you would like to sell. I mean, if you want to get in the restaurant business and you want to be a cook, or you want to own a restaurant one day, go get a job in a restaurant. Learn about the business. Get inspired. I think that's the biggest thing, is to get a job, get involved, get inspired.
But sometimes the
go out
inspiration comes first.
Yeah, and then go out and try to do your own thing, and don't be afraid to try to do your own thing.
What advice do you have for students about advocating on behalf of small businesses?
Oh, please do. It is so important. The student debt bill is just one example. Make a huge difference in the lives of so many students if there was a way that their employer could help them pay their student debt. But it's so important for students to get involved in the political process, and make sure their views are known, and the people understand what's important to them. Because if they don't, someone else is going to decide for them, and may not be deciding the way the student would like it to be decided. But if they don't speak up, they can't. They're not heard.
How can students and the community contact the Small Business Advocacy Council for more information and to help?
SBACIL.org.
Okay, and again, tell us your name and your role.
Scott Baskin, and I'm the CEO of the SBAC.
And Larry?
And Larry Minutillo, I'm the Vice President for the SBAC.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for being with us on WZRD today. We are very grateful for all your insight and your information.
Thank you.
Thank you.